Here is the longer, unhurried version, told the way a fire tells a story when the night is deep and no one wants to sleep. Something begins to happen to certain people when the earth has carried them 40 times around the sun. It is never announced. No calendar marks the day. It simply arrives the way dawn arrives, first a thinning of the dark, then a bird you cannot see deciding to sing, then the unbelievable gold spilling over the edge of the world before you even knew you were waiting for it. If you have been awake at all, if you have allowed even a crack of honest attention to remain open inside the hurry, you feel it. One morning you are pouring coffee and you notice, almost with amusement, that the old hungers have gone quiet. The voice that used to hiss hustle, achieve, become, prove, has fallen asleep in its chair like an exhausted guard dog. The titles, the bank balance, the carefully curated image in the mirror, none of it sparkles any more. They sit there like toys you adored at 7, and now look upon with tenderness and a little pity. You do not hate them. You simply see them for what they are. Costumes worn by a child who thought the play was the whole world. We were all that child. Remember 25, the ferocious certainty, the secret map folded inside the chest that showed exactly where X marked the spot of enough? I had mine. I marched toward it like a soldier toward victory. Nights without sleep, friendships postponed, love measured out in careful doses so it would not interfere with the mission. Every promotion was a medal, every zero added to the salary, a brick in the fortress where I would finally be safe from the fear of not mattering. I arrived. I stood on the summit I had bled for. The wind up there was cold and thin, and the only sound was my own voice asking, "Is this it? Really, all that for this?" That question is the first true prayer most of us ever utter, because the first 40 years are not the life. They are the cocoon. They are the long, messy, glorious gathering of everything you will need when the walls finally fall. You fall in and out of love like a drunk stumbling through doors. You lose people who felt like oxygen. You win prizes that turn to paper in your hands. You stand in rooms full of applause and feel homesick for something you cannot name. You build the most exquisite identity, clever, accomplished, kind, sexy, spiritual, whatever adjective felt like armor, and then you watch it crack along fault lines you never knew were there. All of it is on purpose. Every tear is delivering silk. Every humiliation is loosening the glue. Every certainty that collapses is another breath of wind against the chrysalis. You think you are living your life, but something far wiser is living you, the way a river lives a stone, turning it over and over until the sharp edges are gone, and what remains can finally reflect the sky. Then comes the terrifying gift, the question you have been running from since childhood catches you at last. If I am not my achievements, if I am not my reflections in other people's eyes, if I am not the frightened child still trying to earn the right to exist, then who am I? Most people sprint faster at this point. Faster cars, younger lovers, louder distractions, anything to drown the silence that follows the question. But if you can bear to stand inside that silence, if you can refrain from papering it over with noise, the most tender thing in the universe begins to happen. The masks slip, one by one, and underneath them is not emptiness. Underneath them is presence, vast, quiet, ancient, and impossibly kind. It has been watching the whole drama with the soft amusement of a grandparent watching a child play dress-up. It never left you, not even in the worst moments. It held you when you were screaming at the world for not loving you enough. It held you when you were pretending you did not need to be held. It is the part of you that knew, even at 7, that the stars were friendly. This presence has many names. Some call it the Self with a capital S. Some call it God wearing your face for a while. Some simply call it home. I call it the real you, the one that was never born and therefore can never die. The one that dreams the dream of your life without ever mistaking itself for the dream. When you begin, however shakily, to live from this place, the world changes color. You stop needing the room to agree that you are remarkable. You become content to be ordinary in the way oceans are ordinary, endlessly deep, endlessly alive, endlessly themselves. You taste food again like a child tasting snow. You hear music the way you did before it became a backdrop for being seen listening to the right music. You look at the faces of strangers on the train and feel the strange, impossible kinship of being the same mystery wearing different disguises. I watched a woman do this once. She had spent 25 years as a corporate lawyer, razor, sharp, feared, envied. Her wardrobe cost more than most people's houses. Her Christmas cards looked like magazine covers. Then her mother died suddenly, and something inside her broke open instead of closed. She walked away from the firm at 40, for with no plan except the feeling that she could no longer breathe inside the old story. Her colleagues thought she had lost her mind. Her husband threatened to leave. She took a tiny apartment above a bakery and began painting badly, joyfully, obsessively, the way she had not painted since childhood. 6 months later I ran into her at the farmer's market. She was barefoot in February, paint under her fingernails, eyes shining like a girl who had just discovered the world was not a courtroom after all. She said, "I spent half my life trying to win a case that didn't exist. I'm done prosecuting myself. That is what 40 can do if you let it. It hands you back your life, unscripted. Death helps." Around this age, mortality stops being a concept and starts walking beside you like a courteous companion who never interrupts but whose presence changes every conversation. You feel it in the new ache in your knee, in the obituary of someone younger than you, in the way your parents' hands suddenly look translucent. And for the first time, the thought "I am going to die" lands not as tragedy, but as the most exquisite news anyone has ever given you. Because suddenly the trivia falls away, the grudge you nursed for 7 years, laughable, the worry about whether your thighs are acceptable in shorts, absurd, the fear that you are not leaving a big enough mark. Darling, the ocean does not worry about individual waves. You begin to spend your time the way a dying person spends the last of a currency that was always infinite but pretended to be scarce. You call the friend you have not spoken to in years just to say "I love you." You sit on the porch doing nothing except watching clouds rearrange themselves into cathedrals. You tell the truth out loud, gently, radically. You make art that no one may ever see. You kiss slowly. You apologize to your children for the ways you made them carry your fear. You forgive your parents for being human. You dance in the kitchen to songs that came out when you were 15, and still believed the future would save you. And something wild happens. The less you clutch at life, the more it fills your open hands. Love deepens, not because people change, but because you finally stop trying to edit them into shapes that feel safe. Work becomes play, not because you quit your job, though sometimes you do, but because you stop requiring it to prove you are real. Solitude becomes delicious instead of threatening. Silence becomes music. You discover that joy is not a reward for getting everything right. Joy is the fragrance of alignment, the scent given off when a human being finally relaxes into being itself. So if you are hovering near 40 or already past it, and you feel the floor dropping out from under everything you thought you knew good, that floor was borrowed anyway, let it go. The wings are already there, trembling, wet with new color, waiting for the old shell to finish dissolving. The first half of life taught you how to be somebody. The second half invites you to remember you never were. Somebody is a wave that spends its whole life trying to matter. Nobody is the ocean that knows every wave is already home. When you truly know that you are the ocean wearing your name for a little while, fear loses its address. You stop auditioning for your own life and simply live it, astonished, grateful, temporary, and utterly, radiantly here. That, my friend, is worth every minute of the first 40 years. That is the moment the rehearsal ends and the dancing begins. That is when you discover that life did not begin at birth. It begins the day you stop waiting to become yourself and realize, with tears and laughter and the sweetest relief imaginable, that you were here all along,